What if the taste of your favorite food wasn't actually real? What if technology couldn't just read your thoughts, but could write new experiences directly onto your senses? Well, today we're diving headfirst into that world, a place where science fiction is becoming science fact, right on the tip of your tongue.
So let's start with a big one. The question you see in every sci-fi movie. Can a machine really read your mind? I mean, can it actually tap into your brain and listen to your private thoughts?
Okay, let's get this straight right away. There's the fantasy version, where you just download a memory like a file, and then there's the scientific reality. And honestly, the reality is way more interesting. Scientists aren't reading the words in your mind. Think of it more like they're learning to recognize the patterns your brain creates for different thoughts, images, or ideas.
And what they can decode with this pattern matching is just wow. We're talking about predicting your movements, seeing the images in your head, and even picking up on your internal monologue. In some lab studies, they've identified the exact image a person was looking at with over 90% accuracy. That's not a guess. That's practically looking through someone else's eyes.
But, and this is a big but, it's not as simple as just plugging in a machine. This takes a ton of training. You know, there was a study that decoded dreams, which sounds incredible, right? But it took 30 to 45 hours of interviews with the person just to make sense of the data. So, no, we're not quite there yet, but the fact that we're even having this conversation is pretty amazing.
So, our brains have these codes for thoughts and images. What about our other senses? Let's zoom in on one we can all relate to. Taste. How does your brain take a simple chemical reaction on your tongue and turn it into the sour shock of a lemon?
Well, you can thank this part of your brain right here, the gustatory cortex. This is the main control room for flavor. It's where all the signals from your tongue end up, and it's the place that figures out, ah, yes, that's sweet, or whoa, that's bitter. And that signal takes a wild ride to get there. It happens in the blink of an eye. From your tongue, it zips through a bunch of neural checkpoints before finally hitting the main stage, the gustatory cortex, and becoming what you perceive as flavor. So what is this complex system working with? Just 5 basic building blocks. That's it. Salty, sweet, sour, bitter, and umami. Every single complex flavor you've ever experienced is just a combination of these 5 core tastes. Now, this is where it gets wild. If flavor is basically a code made from those 5 tastes, what happens when technology learns to speak that language? What happens when a machine can write that code directly onto your tongue? Okay, say hello to the Norimaki synthesizer. And yes, it's actually named after Japanese nori sushi rolls. This little device holds 5 gels, one for each basic taste. And the goal? To create any flavor you can think of, with no actual food involved. You can think of it like the RGB of flavor. You know how your computer screen uses just red, green, and blue to make millions of colors? This device does the same thing, but with salty, sweet, acidic, bitter, and umami to create any taste. So how does it do it? With a tiny, gentle electric current. But here's the really clever part. Turning up the power doesn't make the taste stronger. It actually makes it weaker. By controlling the current with pinpoint precision, the device can dial each of the 5 flavors up or down to create a specific taste profile. And it doesn't stop there. The same researcher, Professor Homi Miyashita, developed this, the Taste the TV. It's a screen you can actually lick. I'm not kidding. It has cartridges of the 5 flavors that spray a precise combination onto a hygienic film that rolls over the screen. Imagine tasting the food on your favorite cooking show. And apparently it works. A student asked the device for the taste of sweet chocolate. She licked the screen, and this is what she said. Described it just like milk chocolate. The future is officially here, and it's lickable.
Okay, so this is all really cool, kind of weird, but is it just a gimmick? Is there a real point to all of this? Well, it turns out hacking our sense of taste could have a huge impact on our health. Let's start with a massive problem. The World Health Organization says that 2.5 million deaths could be prevented every single year if people just cut back on salt. The issue is, low sodium food can be pretty bland, which makes it hard for people to make a change. And that's where this technology becomes absolutely brilliant. Researchers have created electric chopsticks. They use that same electrical stimulation idea, but as you eat, they send a tiny, totally safe current through your food to trick your tongue into tasting more saltiness than is actually there. And the results are pretty stunning. In tests, people eating low-sodium food with the electric chopsticks said it tasted just as salty as food that had 40% more salt in it. That's a huge difference in perception, with absolutely no change to the food itself. So, what does this all mean? It means you could potentially slash your salt intake by 30% without feeling like you're missing out on any flavor. And get this, as a side effect, the tech might even boost the savory umami notes in your food, making it taste even better. All right, let's bring this all back around. We started by talking about decoding the brain, and we've ended up with technology that can write code directly onto our senses. What does this mean for a relationship with technology going forward? You know, this isn't really coming out of nowhere. We've been letting technology interface with our senses for a while now. Back in the 90s, we got haptic feedback in game controllers. That was hacking our sense of touch. Then came augmented reality, hacking our vision. And now we have digital taste. You have to wonder, what sense is next? And this brings us right back to those bigger, more serious questions. As these tools get more powerful, we have to start talking about the rules of the road. Ethicists are now proposing this concept of a right to cognitive liberty. Basically, the fundamental idea that your mind, your thoughts, and your experiences should be protected from manipulation. Because this is a really profound shift. For all of human history, our tools have been things we hold, things that are separate from us. But this tech blurs that line. It transforms a tool from something external we use into an internal experience we have. So as we start down this path, where we can literally engineer our own sensory experiences, we're left with a huge question. Who gets to write the code for our reality? That is definitely something to chew on.